Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark. And this is the Conservative Five, an online TV news production of Liberty Nation News. On today's episode, the inevitable exodus. Trump keeps collecting big-name Democrats and MAGA in the middle. Then we'll discuss the dwindling importance in corporate America of freebie jobs, and has DEI lost its grip? The new buzzword unity is now applied to government, and we'll nose around with the Teamsters and hurry up and wait. And finally, it's another quick fix to flex the brain in Just for Fun, Volume 56. All this and more coming up in this edition of the Conservative Five.
Tampons.
First, it was Elon Musk. Then came RFK Jr., joining the MAGA movement. This last week, it was none other than former Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard, endorsing Trump and asking her legion of fans to do the same. All of these people are left of center, yet they still feel that Trump is the best hope the country has. Kennedy fans are saying Maha, make America healthy again. What will Tulsi bring to the table? Kennedy just posted on social media, Wonder Woman just joined the Justice League. Who could possibly be next? If anyone else on the leftist ilk announced their support for Trump's campaign, Harris's head might explode and Harris's voters might begin to question, what is happening? Liberty Nation News' own Graham Noble penned an article this week, kind of drawing several interesting conclusions. And you now have the floor, sir.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Now, here's the interesting thing about Tulsi Gabbard. Well, there's a few interesting things about her, but one of the interesting things is that my theory is that she was never really a Democrat, but she joined the Democratic Party because if she wanted to go to Congress, that was the only way she was going to get there from Hawaii. In Hawaii at the moment, there's not Republicans do not hold a single state elected office or federal office. And the last time that Hawaii sent a Republican to Congress, either the House of Representatives or the Senate, was 2010. And that was a gentleman named Charles Dew. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing his name correctly. His last name is spelled D-J-O-U. And this guy in 2010, May of 2010, won a special election to represent the first congressional district from Hawaii. And then in November, the midterms of that same year, he lost his seat to a Democrat. So, 2010 was the last time any Hawaii Republican served in their congressional delegation. So that's why I think Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat to begin with. I don't think she was ever a true dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I think she was always more in the kind of independent camp, really, when it comes to politics. Her joining Trump and endorsing Trump, I think, still is a big deal, though. I know that kind of Democrats will kind of brush it off. Well, she's not in Congress anymore anyway, so what does it matter? And she turned her back on the Democratic Party. So, we don't care about Tulsi Gabbard. She is one of the most prominent female politicians, in the country, one of the most well-known. She has this air of seriousness about her all the time. I mean, she's a colorful personality, I guess. And I think that's good for the Trump campaign to have someone like that attached to it, kind of thing. And I think she will be a very effective campaigner for him. But here's the real thing. Democrats they've always pinned their hopes on painting Trump as, some kind of demon.
The boogeyman.
He's a terrible guy. He's gonna shred the Constitution. He's gonna take everyone's rights away, and he's gonna become a dictator. Well, here's the thing: if that was actually a true representation of his intentions and of the kind of man he was, then Robert F. Kennedy wouldn't have gotten within a mile of him. Neither would Tulsi Gabbard, and neither, in fact, would Elon Musk. And of course, Elon Musk, also, as you said, he endorsed Trump as well. None of these people would be anywhere near anywhere near Trump if he was really as terrible a person as everyone makes him out to be. And so I think And so I think the endorsements from these people, and who knows next, there's probably going to be one or two more people from the left side of the political divide also jumping on the Trump train, I believe, sometime within the next, few weeks, maybe. Who it is, I'm not sure. But the thing is, these endorsements from these left of center people just destroy the whole orange man bad narrative.
Yeah, I mean, obviously something is not right with the narrative that he's a bad guy. But here's what intrigued me this week. Even Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, big time leftist, he admitted that his platform ran cover for Hunter Biden and caved under pressure from Biden Harris. So it's an interesting admission from the guy who called Trump a badass after the assassination attempt. Are we seeing a shift in social media as well, Dave?
Well, before we start feeling all cordial toward Mark Zuckerberg for telling the American public he regrets censoring people's Facebook pages, saying the Biden administration made me do it, that's ridiculous. He realizes that there's a possibility that the political winds could, change, and former President Trump might be elected in November, and it's just business not to be on the wrong side of that administration. Zuckerberg hasn't suddenly become a good citizen wanting to ensure free speech for everyone. His coming clean that the Biden-Harris campaign staff actually pressured Facebook to censor the COVID-related content the administration didn't like. It's a business decision, not a decision out of conscience for the public good. And let's not forget that the House Judiciary Committee has been breathing down Zuckerberg's neck and would have discovered all of this collusion with the Biden administration anyway. And besides, Zuckerberg simply told us what we've known already for 3.5 years.
Plus, Zuckerberg is also going through a PR transformation. He went from that, nerd, alien nerd who looks like the guy from Star Trek to now someone's going to steal your girl. He's got the baggy clothes, he's got the chain, he's got the beard, he's on, on a surfboard carrying the American flag. So he's really going through a whole PR transformation.
Well, I kind of want to know why everybody's coming out of the woodwork right now. I mean, why now, John? Are they just seeing the writing on the wall?
Well, I think it's pretty adroit political strategizing. Nothing could have been more of a blanket on Kamala Harris's platitudinal presentation than Kennedy's timing. Had he done so a week before, it would not have had anywhere near that impact. And it really did. And now Tulsi Gabbard, 1-2 shoe drop.
If you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country.
And I'm reminded as we talk of the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz does not want all of these people pulling back curtains. We have multiple people pulling back curtains and demonstrating the clear machinations of the fraud, while Kamala Harris and the rest continue to promise free hearts and courage to everybody manufactured in a social justice fantasy world. I must take issue with Graham in answering your question, not because I wish to be a devil's advocate, but because I wish to be a Graham.
Oh, you're good at it.
No, it's my job. I don't like what Graham said for this reason. I think what Graham said is probably accurate in what he wrote about Tulsi Gabbard. But Graham, you're echoing the mainstream media's effort to close that curtain back up on her. This is a woman who in 2016 said that the problem with the Democratic Party is it was unduly influenced by foreign interests and corporate corruption. And now, to read recent diatribes against her, she was a Republican all along, and that she was just and so was he. They were just Republicans all along. Don't look at the issues. Don't look behind the curtain. Let's not talk about what she said about corporate greed or anything wrong with renewables. They're closing. They have a lot more curtains to close. So what I say, I disagree with Graham. I don't know that what he's saying is untrue, but that's certainly the narrative that the right is trying to portray in an effort to use this, red, blue paintbrush with everything to obscure issues. And that's what I think the real test is here with Zuckerberg and all the rest. It's all unraveling on them. And it seems like it's pushing them to tell bigger and bigger lies. And, the great lie, one of the biggest spins was MSNBC, or no, USA Today, now a chanting a propaganda outlet for the mainstream media and whatever they represent ideologically, came out and said that Donald Trump brought Gabbard and Kennedy out. Their exact words were to try and broaden his appeal. So Donald Trump was in control of this. Look at the video of what RFK said, and then look at all the news reports, and the last thing they're discussing is what he said, and they're portraying it as if he's some kind of an agent of Trump. I think what we see is Gabbard, Musk, and RFK all turning away from the Democratic Party very visibly. And so they need to recast all of it as somehow it's Trump's fault again. Like you're saying, it's Trump. Everything's Trump's fault. Trump. Quit ruining our one issue campaign of Donald Trump bad by bringing in decent people with long records of credibly and authentically pointing out corruption. You're messing up my Wizard of Oz fantasy. And that's
all right, guys. We're gonna have to wrap this up. So I have one last question. Blurt an answer or say, well, I don't know. But who's waiting in the weeds to join? Who else is going to do this?
John Fetterman.
Good call.
Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin.
I said it first. I said that first.
Charles Manson's. Joe Manchin.
All right, guys. Okay, I got to close this out. And I'm going to do it with the sage words of Mr. Noble himself. The Trump-Kennedy-Gabbard coalition suggests that at least some people in or near the halls of power are realizing the situation is truly dire, so much so that partisan rancor must finally be put aside. Thanks, panel. Thanks for watching. It appears the minions inside corporate America are running scared about being found out that they are embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion schemes. As the saying goes, go woke, go broke. And the numbers bear this out. Are the rumors of DEI's death greatly exaggerated? Or is corporate wokeism preparing for a burial ceremony? It would appear that companies proudly embracing diversity hires a few years ago have decided it's not in their best interest to continue the practice. And I kind of want to know what's going on. Can you fill us in on the latest, Andrew?
If you invested $10,000 in Disney stock 10 years ago, you would have $10,000. If you invested $10,000 in Harley Davidson 12 years ago, you would have $10,000. If you invested $10,000 in Anheuser-Busch stock, the owner of Bud Light 10 years ago, you would have $10,000. Now, what do these companies have in common? Well, they all have gone woke in some form or another, whether championing the 2S LGBTQIA community or embracing DEI. Now, this whole conversation about DEI wokeism started after Lowe's was the latest companies have been discovered to have gone full DEI. There's a conservative activist named Robbie Starbuck. He's widely popular on X, and he claimed on X that he got Lowe's to dial back its whole woke policies before even publishing his reports. He apparently reached out to them about his discoveries beforehand, and then someone from the company reached out to him, and they said, "Oh, we're now going to scale back our whole diversity, equity, inclusion, joy, all that nonsense." But why? They fear the backlash that would inevitably occur. You saw John Deere, another recent example of this. That's another company that announced they were pulling back its whole DIA nonsense due to, quote, feedback. Now, what's interesting about this whole saga is that if you look at polling, a few years ago, many Americans would have said, yeah, they want companies to declare their positions on current events of the day. Nowadays, according to recent studies, including a Gallup Bentley University study, found that fewer Americans, including Democrats, minorities, and young people, want companies to declare their opinions on news of the day. It's this whole idea from Michael Jordan back in the day when he said, Republicans buy sneakers too. So you're dealing with the whole cascading effect of DI going the way of ESG. Perhaps rumors of its death are greatly exaggerated, but the evidence is pointing to its demise.
Is it designed to fail, Clark?
Oh, I thought that was the most loaded part of your question. I think it's a very loaded question. I don't know. It will fail. The idea or question that it's designed to fail. Do you think that the erosion of the currency is designed to create inflation? That the borders are open because they're designed to be open? That we're aggravating racial relations by design? I would hope not. Critical race theory, which is the background of this, is still a theory which is being proven pretty obviously to be built on falsehoods and have nothing to offer other than to rub new salt in old wounds and really create a lot of problems. I think we see DEI in a presidential run and what the consequence is when you elevate skin color above merit. I'm already DEI. I mean, I'm Jewish, Abenaki, German, Belgian. I think I'm already a melted pot. The idea that by bringing people in from multi-ethnic backgrounds automatically yields you improved outcomes is absolutely ludicrous, ultimate racism, and that's why it's failing. Now, Andrew, who did a great presentation, I think, addressing the economic aspects, he's hit on something. I, as a customer, 30 years, I bought organic seeds from a company in Maine called Fedco. Now they've gone woke. They're setting part of the proceeds aside for Indians. Being part Abenaki, I don't really like this company in Maine exploiting my family's history to try to sell more of its products. I'm not going to buy it ever again. If they stop their woke Bud Light stuff, I'm not going to buy it anymore. I'll never trust them again. When I go to the bank, TD Bank has now gone woke. And I go to take a withdrawal and I'm told about how they support all transgender people. There are actually a bunch of people that think that transgender surgeries in Vermont are not good for children. And so maybe another bank should have a message about how horrible this is. I'm not going to the bank to be preached to. Corporations have become moral churches, and it's failing for them because that was never their business model, and they're going to have to choose which one they are. And that's why I think DI, whether intended to or not, is destined to fail. It's a horrible, toxic ideology.
Well, Dave, do you think that maybe all of these corporate cases are simply embracing DEI to appease folks and not really thinking about their bottom line? I don't understand the corporate woke. I mean, we already have, laws in place where you can't discriminate. So what is this even doing?
Well, I think it's very simple. I mean, it's a business decision, and the business decision was originally, if you start to pull the thread back, it was had its origin in a McKinsey study that said companies that embrace DEI do better, they're more productive, and their profit margin is higher. That has been proved recently to be absolutely false. No one could ever duplicate that particular research. It's just a sham. And not only that, but to go further into this notion of business decisions, large lending corporations base their lending decisions on companies that could demonstrate a large or a high ESG score. Well, when that starts to happen, whether or not you like it or whether you want to embrace it or not, you have to make a decision that's going to help your stockholders. And if you can't get loans, well, that is a problem. But effectively now the curtain has been pulled back and people are ditching these nonsense programs and for good, sane business reasons, because either the company's lost its corporate mind and its clients understand that, and they're favoring other products, as John suggested he would do. Or what is somewhat worse is that they're abandoning the DEI programs because they favor a system that selects employees that actually know what they're doing and that are willing to turn out a quality job. That is particularly important when you're looking at companies who have products that we base our lives on. For example, airplane companies and airlines, you'd want the best possible pilots and you want the best possible
Secret
workers.
Service?
And perhaps the Secret Service. At least you want people who can get their sidearm back in its holster. That was pathetic.
That was kind of
How about that NASA training video that told the astronauts you have to be guilty for your white supremacy? Meanwhile, they're stuck up in space and they can't get down because of this. Because these people are focusing more on the DEI than anything else that really matters in our world.
What is the downside risk for companies who reduce or rid themselves of the DEI grip? Are they gonna get hammered, or are they gonna, flourish? Graham?
I don't really believe that there is much of a downside risk. I mean, they're gonna, for a while, they're gonna be the object of the irate progressives who are going to start, saying that those corporations now suddenly are magically run by a bunch of fascists or whatever. But no, I don't think economically, I don't think there's a downside at all to getting rid of these DEI programs. Although I suspect that some of these companies will never rid themselves completely of these programs. And here's why: because DEI has actually become, it began as what we used to call virtue signaling. That's what these companies were doing originally. They were saying, oh, aren't we wonderful because we send part of our profits to groups that are helping the environment, or, picking up the trash off the beaches, or indigenous women who are subject of domestic violence or whatever. There's some cause, and it was virtual signaling. But then someone along the line figured out that DEI actually there was big money. The DEI itself became a big money industry. And so, and of course, now you've got some of these corporations also are being, some of their executives or middle upper management people are people who've come out of college already brainwashed into believing that DEI is the only way to save the planet from white supremacy. So I think they'll have a hard time getting rid of it. And I think in a lot of cases, some of these companies will push these DEI programs into the background. They still might be kind of humming away quietly in the background, but but they won't make a big deal about it. They won't want people to know that they're still doing it.
I think one of the consequences that we've seen is, of course, the most famous of the DEI blunders with Bud Light losing billions of dollars. The company finally, I guess, unloaded that marketing moron.
Okay, I think that's time to close. The sweet smell of rebellion, we all love it. Are too many companies defaulting to check the box efforts, such as leading to performative rather than substantive DEI programs? Or is everybody getting tired of the grip DEI has on the bottom line? We don't know, but we sure have opinions. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, panel. There was a noticeable shift in air pressure earlier this year when the Teamsters, headed by President Sean O'Brien, donated $45,000 to the Republican National Committee. And despite praising the current leader of the free world as definitely the most pro-labor president we've ever had and we've ever seen, he didn't endorse Joe Biden and doesn't seem ready to sign up with Trump or Harris. O'Brien was elected, though, in part to reform and reignite the union overall. Just who will America's largest labor union endorse for president? This question for years didn't even need to be asked, as the International Brotherhood of Teamsters has traditionally backed the Democratic Party. 1.8 million members strong. John Clark, would this endorsement move the needle at all?
Well, I think it would. I could see why the unions and American workers are a little conflicted right now. Perhaps they're wavering between two parties that both say they work for the working class. And as I've mentioned here before, we've pointed out, and many people are pointing out, and Robert Kennedy's pointing out, this is no longer his father's party. This isn't the party of the working class anymore. So another aspect of this is how much relevance do union leaders even have with their membership in a time when more and more Americans are losing trust in mainstream institutions, not just the press and government institutions, but maybe unions who also they feel often are maybe disconnected from what they're experiencing on the ground. So I've always been, a little conflicted about, labor in this country. It's sort of it's a double-edged sword, and it can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how it moves its force. And I'm really curious to see, what are other people I've say who have more insight in about our unions, but I don't see how they can endorse the Democrats and say they're endorsing their membership.
All this chatter about a unity government, coming out of the Trump campaign seems to be catching on. Are people really ready for that compromise? Dave, what do you think?
Well, I believe where you're seeing is a case where the political moderates that we've always seen as moderates now see their ideological position having remained stationary, and the traditional Democrats having moved to the far left, and it's left them behind. And I think you see that. They say that quite frequently. The Democratic Party left me behind. To them, the conservatives are now closer to what they have always believed the American values on economy, education, and a host of political factors are. And it's not what the Democrats are saying or the progressives. The fact is that they have moved far left and no longer represent most of what we used to refer to as blue dog Democrats. The Tulsi Gabbards and RFKs, have seen themselves more in line with Trump Vance tickets than the far left Harris Walz crowd. But remember this one thing: Donald Trump is not really a conservative in the truest William F. Buckley sense of the word. He is a pragmatic populist. And, when you cut through to exactly what he says, he's telling you he wants to make happen what works for the people. And I think that's resonating.
What's the pressure on Sean O'Brien from Democrats? Or they've got to be cornering him and just hounding on him, even though they didn't even invite him to speak at the convention. Andrew, what's going on with that?
Well, first, I would say that it's quite remarkable how far Sean O'Brien has come. I don't know if you guys remember last year, he was in a Senate committee hearing and he wanted to engage in combat with Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. And now he's speaking at the Republican National Convention. So I find that quite riveting. Now, as for your question, according to Sean O'Brien, the reason why the Democrats are shunning him is because they are, quote, caving to corporate elitists. Now, considering that he spoke at the RNC and he's committing a cardinal sin, it's highly unlikely the Democratic Party is or will welcome with open arms moving forward. Now, I think Dave mentioned this. Now, O'Brien probably realizes the political winds are changing. The political situations become dynamic, and the Democrats no longer maintain a stranglehold support on the labor vote. Earlier this year, United Auto Workers Union President Sean Fain, he appeared on Fox News with Neil Cavuto, and he admitted that despite his union endorsing Joe Biden, his union members will vote for Donald Trump. Because according to a lot of the union members who spoke to Fox Business earlier this year, also they said that Trump speaks more to them than the Democratic Party. So ultimately, the conversation moving forward is whether GOP is going to embrace the whole labor union and the labor vote. Will they abandon their position on right to work laws? Will they become more union oriented than tax cuts for businesses, whatever the case. So for now, the one party is all about Hollywood celebrities and wokeism, and the other party is for what it seems to be this whole narrative of the forgotten man and forgotten women.
Teamsters usually wait until after the conventions, both of them are concluded, and yet we're still sitting here waiting to hear from them. Why the wait, Graham? What's going on there?
Well, if I had to guess as to why they haven't, the national Teamsters, the national organization hasn't endorsed anyone yet, although actually a couple of California, the locals, the local affiliated branches, two of them out in California have endorsed Kamala Harris. And that's kind of unusual because normally the locals don't come out and make any endorsements until after the kind of national organization does. Why they're waiting? Well, I think there's probably a lot of soul searching maybe going on amongst the people running the Teamsters, because on the one hand, you've got, they realize that inflation, particularly food inflation and various other things have actually hurt their members, of course, hurt them, in their pocketbooks and the kitchen table politics, if you like. But at the same time, they're struggling with the idea that the Teamsters, like almost all unions, have always traditionally supported the Democratic Party, and I think maybe they're having a lot of internal discussions about what do we do, how does it look if we endorse Kamala Harris, who has been part of the administration that has hurt our members so badly, but on the other hand, there's always a lot of financial connections between the Democratic Party and unions. So it's difficult. I mean, I think the Teamsters, I could see the national, kind of the Teamsters not making an endorsement yet for another few weeks at least. I think they might just really be holding off on it, certainly until after the debate, perhaps.
Well, I think the Democratic Party seems to be hinting that they're just not going to endorse anybody, and I don't see that happening. I see them making a decision sooner or later, and his own Sean O'Brien's own people are saying, well, this is the most democratic process of endorsing a presidential candidate we've ever done in 121 years. So I don't know. It just seems like there might be another endorsement coming down that nobody expects.
Yeah. Of course, bouncing off what Andrew said a minute ago, and that is that I think even if the Teamsters, even if they eventually came out and officially gave their endorsement to Kamala Harris, I think probably a lot of their members would still actually pull the lever for Trump when it comes down to it anyway. And again, mostly because that is how the economy has affected them personally.
I think that makes a very good point, Graham. There is a difference between UAW international leadership and the rank and file, and it's always been like that. The UAW did not endorse Richard Nixon, but the rank and file went for Richard Nixon, and the same with Reagan. The rank and file break with their leadership routinely because the leadership of the larger unions are no different than the elitists that we criticize.
Yeah, they live in multi-million-dollar mansions, some of them, and they've got yachts.
Well, I think that's they want to overhaul this. O'Brien got in there not for saying he was just going to always go, with one party, with tradition. He's a reformer, so they voted for a reformer. I think his weight is going to carry.
If I may make a recommendation for our viewers, there was a great conversation between myself and Lisa Donner on an episode of Swamponomics TV where we discussed these exact issues.
And the best thing we can do is to keep government out of it.
I implore all our viewers to watch that interview.
You can't come on C5 and endorse a rival show, even if it is still a Liberty Nation news show.
Andrew, you're fired. Anyway, we got to wrap it up, guys. A Teamsters spokesperson stated recently, a lot of our society nowadays, it's far left, far right, arguments by pundits, opinions formed out of the gate. It's an important point to be able to actually stop and listen and engage with something that we need more of. And O'Brien is a firm believer in that end quote. And to me, that sounds like a unity government pitch. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks, panel. Well, we are back to have a little fun with the panel of curmudgeons and comics, and we will muddle through. It's a C5 game of trivia, brought to you by Liberty Nation News' own Kirsten Brooker. So let's get started, boys, on some questions.
Boo! I don't like Kirsten.
You are so rotten. All right. Question number 1. Announced in the early months of 2024, the Joint FTC Justice Department Task Force will target, number 1, high tariffs on imported goods and services, unfair and unlawful price gouging, unethical tax rates for wealthy Americans.
B.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ding, ding.
Right, price gouging. Yes.
Oh, I thought we were going one by one because that was my article. I obviously knew the answer, but I thought we were going one by one. I thought that was like last time.
That was your article.
Great.
That doesn't mean anything.
Keep your own scores. I'm busy reading questions. All right. Question number 2. Donald Trump has articulated his plan to dismantle the blank and instead allow decisions to be made at the state and
Department
local
of
levels.
Education. Department of Education.
Yep, I think Graham got that one.
Here's a prediction not going to happen.
Yeah.
No Republican will ever dismantle the Department of Education. I don't care who it is, never going to happen.
Well, if any Republican is going to do it, it's going to be Trump. But you know, do I think he will actually pull it off? I don't know. He's got a massive bureaucracy to fight in order to get that done. And
Bush said, "I'm going to destroy the Department of Education." And what did he do? He took Dave's advice and invaded Iraq for no reason.
Well, if you want to read more about it instead of listening to these guys, you can go to libertynation.com and read Trump targets the Department of Education. Okay. Question number 3. I think I'm on 3. Am I on 3? Yeah. Somebody needs to be my handler. I'm worthless. High cost, an insufficient workforce, and constantly changing designs and upgrades have made it difficult for the U.S. Navy to produce enough
warships.
Okay, Dave got that. The other answers would be jet fighters, missile systems, and of course, it was warships, and that was also Dave's article.
Got an advantage.
He's got it in.
The answer may well have been all of the above, actually.
That probably is more accurate.
Nuclear arsenal, too. Yep.
All right. Question number 4. Beyond obesity and opioid dependence, what illness seems to be plaguing young Americans under the age of 45 more than what it was in the past?
Obesity?
Cancer.
Heart disease or respiratory disorders?
Cancer.
It was cancer. Who got that one? Dave?
Also fatty liver disease, obesity.
I've never really cared about this issue for a long time until I became a parent, and until I started looking at all the ingredients that's in the food, all the stuff that goes in the food that's produced, and it's just astounding to me how poisonous absolutely
Disgusting.
everything is. But I don't think he likes the non-organic stuff, but
I don't even feed my dog processed food. He gets the good stuff. He gets the human grade stuff.
Yeah, so do my dogs.
Yeah, there was a great study that came out recently. It said that 2/3 of all baby food is just garbage, absolutely just terrible for your children.
Was that the scientific term for it? Garbage.
Garbage. Just got to make it at home for fresh ingredients. All right, we're on to the next question. I'm losing count, but you guys are keeping me.
Number 4.
I hope. The 2024 Democratic National Convention began Monday, August 19th. In what city?
Chicago.
Yeah, I'm going to give all of you that one because that was pretty easy.
I can answer.
Ukraine military forces executed a surprise attack against Russia and are holding over 350 square kilometers.
Kursk
Oblast.
Yeah, you only need to get the first one because they're all oblast. Anyway, yes, Kursk Oblast. I'm pretty sure that was Dave. So you could go to libertynation.com and read Ukraine pushes forward in Russia. What happens next? Okay. What former president referred... Oh, we're going to skip that one altogether. The value of what precious metal has hit 29 records in 2024?
Gold, baby. Gold.
Baby,
That's
gold.
just $2,500 an ounce, baby. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's an Andrew Swamponomics right there.
Cows are up too.
I think everybody kind of knew that. But...
Cows are up.
Butter is at the highest level since October. And until a month ago, I did not know there were butter futures. There's actually a butter futures.
I
didn't know that. I did not know that. You
guys need to know some Amish people about a half an hour away and get your butter there. Anyway, though iconic due to Minnesota's standing regarding the matter, what word came up several times in Tim Walz's less than 20-minute speech at the DNC?
Freedom.
Joy.
Tampons.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Weapons of war.
Freedom. Freedom. Thousands of unaccompanied migrant children are missing. Many of them are released to
unvetted people.
Unvetted people is correct. Another open
Great
border
story from Kelly Ballard, if I may say so. Excellent story.
Okay, guys, who's got the most? Because that was the end of our survey today.
Dave, for sure.
I wasn't really keeping track, but it seemed to me like Dave probably got more than any of the rest of us.
Thank you, Holly.
Look at that. Look at everyone. Look at Dave. Dave is just he's sitting up now. His posture's all settled. He's really I see the aura around him turning positive.
That's him swiveling his chair. The aura shifts.
All right. I'll
Dave the
let
Hammer.
win. You guys got to keep track because there'll be a
Lambda.
gift somewhere along the line. I just don't have it ready. Okay, well, folks, we hope we ended on a high note because we're having fun, and if we're having fun, you should be having fun too. Hopefully, at least you'll tune in again. Thanks for playing, and thanks, panel. Well, that's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Please note, LibertyNation.com does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. So check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for Free Thinking, Free Speech, LibertyNation.com.